put a very common analogy. You have hands. We can say, okay, why we have all of these things? So that's the essential question. Yeah? I give less credit to people that explain the mechanism, but ask this foundational question. Why the universe is such? That question has more vitality than, I'm not degrading the other approach. So why do we see? What seeing does?
To perceive the world around us.
But मेरे से बहुत disagreement करें. This is Platonic Aristotelian. Now Plato would ask my type of thing. Aristotle उससे हमारा कोई काम नहीं है. Describe करो भागो यहाँ से. या? जितने traditionalists हैं सब describers हैं. So I am creating a ruckus willfully. So I, after spending considerable time in this field, I'm asking like this childlike questions. Because compounder mechanics मुझे मिल जाएंगे. You can hire someone. Yeah? But you will probably not be able to hire an individual who is asking this type of things. Why do plants exist? Yeah? Why do I have a mind? Why do I see? What will happen if I don't see? Because in our tradition, you will see, we have been asking this type of thing. Why do I know even the world? The Eastern, yeah? Or the Western went in the Aristotelian. Because they went for describing, that they call methodological science, because describing is our job. But what if I don't describe? Yeah? But if I have to really know, I have to know why do I have a mind and why do I see? So what the mind does. If anyone has studied any cognitive science from proper sources, they would know that these proper authorities, they begin like this. They don't go to the mechanics and functionality so early. So we created different disciplines. Here are 5 disciplines that are valuable. Cognitive psychology is functional. जो बातें आप देख रहे थे, mechanics को explain करो, systems को. My first question is, the Aristotelian approach has dominated Western thinking on all matters. If you do not do like that, you will have no virtue in the Western hemisphere. तुमको लोग कहेंगे इसका दिमाग खराब है, इसको सही काम नहीं आता. So explain. But some people that are asking the Platonic questions in the Western are now considered crazy. So हमारे tradition में we have been Platonic. Upanishads में जाइए, Vedas में जाइए. We find ourselves such. Now we will ask that very question. Why are we here? What we will do when we are here is not a big deal. Because the mechanics allow you to crawl and to explore and to survive and do all of that. But we ask the basic question, why do we have minds? What are other possibilities? Whether the universe is also having a mind. Upanishads, I would say, translation bhi padh lijiye, are the foundations on which any exploration of mind, mental, all the important questions will now proceed. Because we have had enough of describers. Because describers never solved even the important problems. Right? But they will tell me, आपका भी थोड़ा सा ये हो रहा है. ये मेडिसिन कौन बनाया? साइकिल कौन बनाया? एरोप्लेन कौन बनाया? Yeah? I have no problem with all of that. I will merely say, शायद ऐसा होना ही था. But fundamental questions remain so. So I am bringing 2 approaches. One is the Eastern metaphysical approach to the study of mind, that we have not done much. But certain important Western scholars did pay heed and they stand on those ideas, but they were not very explicit. But we have the Western so-called analytical, full of descriptions, full of structural, yeah. Yeah. So we have these 2 approaches. Answer me towards the end, why we see. Now you will see if I don't see, now the other, if I, is over. if I don't see, I don't know. Yeah? But if you see, a lot of things happen. So there are people to measure what happens. But why do you see? Do you have any need to see really? So, evolutionists suggested that anything that allows us to survive is our first scientific foray. So study now vision from that point of view. So now all this you have seen so far is studying vision as an aid to survival. If I ask anyone, what does vision do? Oh my God, helps me to know, find out, gives me knowledge. Otherwise I will not know. But if you are a metaphysician from the East, from the Indian tradition, the Chinese, Japanese copied from us. The Indian Upanishadic traditions, अगर आप पढ़े हैं या कुछ अभी पढ़ लेंगे, आपको ये सवाल कि मैं क्यों देखूंगा? Yeah? Then the quest begins in a different dimension. Why I am beginning like this, there is a reason. Because if generations of scholars become describers, mechanics, functionalists, there is big danger. The danger is twofold. One is deep dissatisfaction. You will not be able to console yourself that you really did not do the right kind of thinking. Second, copycat research. They have done, you too do. Yeah? So what will be my take on vision science or measuring anything? I will begin metaphysically, then I will find a proper methodology. But you have many other examples also. Those who do not see, what goes wrong with them? Like people with vision impairment, or people who are in meditation for years and years and years, they avoid all stimuli. Like I came to know in China, there are people who have been living in forest without really moving away even 2 meters for years. What has gone wrong with them? Nothing. You will find many such stories. So one is a metaphysical approach to research that leads you to methodology. One is beginning with methodology. जैसे पंक्चर वाला है, पंक्चर हो गया, पंक्चर बना दो. He is equally satisfied कि पंक्चर उससे हो गया. Yeah? But someone also probably is capable of thinking, why do tires exist? Yeah? So ask yourself the right question. Do not get overwhelmed with the mechanics. I am rejecting that approach to begin with because it will not give us much. The deep satisfaction that you can generate in cognitive science. My purpose is to do that. And I have got some. I have still a long way to go, but I have some. So now second question is, anybody who has known history or cerebral cortex's development in our species and how it has gradually changed over millennia, what was the evidence of seeing and imagining 50-60,000 years ago? ये क्वेश्चन इंपॉर्टेंट है. उससे बगैर तो आपको लगेगा कि ओ हमको आज ही सब मिल गया है. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. Yeah? The story begins 50-60,000 years ago. Upper Paleolithic. And that time people, the idea that कल का जो मेरा बात था, we don't see is valid. When I started exploring that, I realized that a person, a bunch of people who are drawing stuff that did not exist outside from imagination, all the cave paintings that you see in France and Indonesia, why they would do it? They would just draw what they actually could see. There was no passion that they dragged to the cave. So you see the beginning of not seeing. Right? 50-60,000 years ago, the beginning of symbolic representation and not seeing. Otherwise, you will not be able to explain that artistic explosion. You will always say, there was a need, there was no need. Even today, there is no need. Artists paint, you see, you might feel there is a need, but they don't feel there is a need. Yeah? So not seeing began in a very definite way 50 to 60,000 years ago. the turning point from the brain's point of view was symbolic processing took over basic sensory processing. Two universes emerged. Those people that are studying sensory processing, they belong to one tradition. Those who are studying representations, recreations, imaginations, imagery, all kinds of bizarre abstract things, they later on move towards what we call cognitive science of vision. I cannot give you the entire history, but here clarification is jaruri here. Because you can create novel experiments that do not exist. You can use that tool, but you can create completely novel experiments if you ask the right type of question, which will be more satisfying. So 50 to 60,000 years ago, people saw maybe an animal somewhere, and it comes running, wipes out a part of the wall, and starts painting emotions. All kinds of things that were not actually physically there. Now a bunch of other people start appreciating. Oh my God. They also did not know such things exist outside. So a collective appreciation of symbolic representations began. Now from the brain's point of view, deep, widespread wiring began. So several occipital lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, frontal lobe, the connections that emerged that allowed these people to be imaginative on and above what they actually saw began. So what led to, was the history of all of that? We became creatures that are little interested in what actually is there, Platonic. Our physiology helped us, evolutionarily it must have happened, natural selection happened. If so many people are just drugging themselves with imagery and imagination, that would be cherished. So the brain adapted itself to become an imaginative machine. It does not really see what's out there, and philosophically we know we will never know. So it starts creating stories. So to me, seeing is your brain's evolutionary adaptation to create stories and not exactly replicating what's out there. So sensory processing will never be offering a satisfactory account. So we need to study this aspect. Yeah? So we are not objectivists. We will never be interested also. We see something and create a story. And that story is the representation. So entire cognitive science is based on representations rather than what's out there. Alright? But vision science is about what's out there. Sensory processing, how the information flows. But you have cognitive science of seeing is what I have been telling you. So 60,000 years ago, proper cognitive revolution began in bunch of people, and that got selected and got widespread and transmitted because they were the stuff that society cherished. Oh my God, you are not just showing me a dog, you are depicting dogness, adjectives. You see now the difference. Adjectives began. Yeah? Mental imagery began. So nobody remained interested in just depicting or talking about what is out there. They would see a cat, then somebody would say it's a sad cat. Adjectives. So if you are interested deeply, study evolution of language, particularly adjectives and adverbs. Don't give me nonsensical descriptions, what you see. They worked for mentally, if they worked for some people. But in this field, our actual question is, why it's like this? Yeah? Can anything else is possible? Or was possible? You know, we could have been in some other way. So fundamental point that I am trying to make is that if you study the neuroscience of seeing, you are studying sensory processing, up-to-date science. But you will never ever come close to this most important thing, why we see. So the simple answer is, even now, we take some hints and we impose the representations on it. This is very mysterious. And the argument is that most animals and others do not do that. They react to things as they are. Yeah? Like a dog is looking at you, he's just looking at you. But you are not looking at somebody as he or she is. It is what you have represented already. Lots of complicated things are going on. So eye tracking then is studying what? What are these eye movements? Why would you measure? What actually are you measuring? Like Parag was describing. You can buy any sophisticated eye movement. You will get fixations, cards, and some intervals. So when I bifurcated this evolutionary history, where eye trackers then are helping you. ये क्वेश्चन को आप पूछिए, ठीक है? आप सेंसरी प्रोसेसिंग का डेटा आपको चाहिए या आपको इस सवाल का आंसर चाहिए कि हम देखते क्यों हैं? Because you will find many people that are not interested in seeing things around them. And I already gave you in our tradition a long-running style of living cognitively is not to pay attention at all. You are very peaceful, you are calm, and you are really not suffering. Because the society has made us consumers of attention. What Roland Barthes, the French structuralist, said, merchants of desire. So a group of people who are merchants of desire, and then they make others addicted to the products that they're trying to sell. So look here, look there, look here, look there, exciting them all the time. So we know that tremendous amount of mental illnesses have flourished now because of this. Not merchants of death, merchants of desire. All social media, everything is based on it. So evolutionarily, I'm interested in the question of evolution of representations on and above what exist. Are we capturing that via this technique? Answer me. You can write to me an essay. And if I find it really good, I'll pay you. I'm announcing it. I'll send you a check if I'm really happy with your answer. Write 2,000-3,000 and give references. I will not be able to give you all the references, but you should find out the references. And I am always interested in people that begin philosophically, conceptually and use a little bit of compoundry just for their own satisfaction. क्योंकि हम ऑब्जेक्टिव साइंटिफिक वर्ल्ड में हैं, थोड़ा कंपाउंडरी तो चाहिए. बिना उसका तो फिर लोग कहेंगे ना ये क्या आर्म चेयर फिलोसफी. तो थोड़ा कंपाउंडरी जोड़ दीजिए लोगों के लिए. लेकिन आपको खुद पता है कि वो मजा नहीं आएगा खाली अगर मैं मैकेनिक्स एक्सप्लेन करूँ. या ऑप्टिक नर्व, ऑल दैट. एनीवे, मुझे लग रहा है रात हो जाएगी, so I have to cut. But I have already given you a push, the direction in which you should start thinking. Yeah? Symbolic representational imagery in the brain is not dependent on occipital lobe. It takes in some information, but what you call seeing cognitively, it is not that. David Marr का विजन पढ़ लीजिए, कई पैराग्राफ्स में ये मिलेगा. One of the foundational books in cognitive science of vision. All right? But if you go to more biological, reductionist approaches of seeing, you will not find these paragraphs. They will convince you that it is what it is. Don't ask this question why it is like this. Yeah? It is what it is. Because these are differences in traditions. So I am beginning to identify myself from a tradition that asks these foundational questions in different cultures. So I brought in the cultural gulf also, right? In different cultures and civilizations, people have approached seeing metaphysically for their own needs and requirements. Yeah? आपको कई लोग बनारस में मिल जाएंगे, कहेंगे कि हमें कुछ देखना नहीं है, कुछ आंख के सामने हो रहा है तो देख रहे हैं, मैं कुछ देखना ही नहीं चाहता हूँ, मुझे आप छोड़ दीजिए. बट वही लास वेगास और न्यूयॉर्क में आपको कोई नहीं मिलेगा जो कहे सच फैंटास्टिक वर्ल्ड इज राइट इन फ्रंट ऑफ मी, आप क्या पालो, मुझे कहने देखना है. या एकदम till my last breath I will see and feed in information because that is what is my life. So also bring into your thinking cultural evolutionary notions of particular sets of people. Do not think of them as a universal set or as if they all have been like this. No, they have not been like this. We are merely representative of civilizational flow of cognition. Carl Jung to some extent. ये सारे आइडियाज इनका मिला जुला है. फ्रॉइड को भी पढ़ सकते हैं, विलियम जेम्स को भी पढ़ सकते हैं. तो चलिए, हिंदी सब समझते हैं, प्रॉब्लम है हिंदी में. Everyone? Because as you know, NEP has now prescribed that we should speak Indian languages. So I'm consistent with the philosophy of the nation. Also, why is he still speaking Hindi? I am from South India. Hindi is what I know as a second or third language. I cannot speak other languages. So I think many of these things are just there for you to have a look later. I will not try to spend my time. The use of eye tracking particularly began with people like Boswell and all the other people. So Boswell and Yargos are considered more modern. The question again was, in Boswell's head, exploration. You know, people explore what is right in front of it. Most of the religions explore. But now my question is, why even explore? And particularly why explore when you know what you want and it already is there and you have satisfied yourself, then why are you still exploring? Now people would say, that's our job. If we don't explore even after we have satisfied our basic needs, what is the purpose of having this mind or the brain? So exploration is a natural condition. So he wanted to find out evidences of explorations. Keith Rayner pushed this field with use of more sophisticated paradigms, and he died a couple of years ago. And you have the beginning of many different sub-disciplines: developmental psychology, reading research, cognitive psychology, जो कह रहा था usability and marketing, behavioral neuroscience. But the fundamental development happened in America, in earnest, when Keith Rayner used a dual Purkinje eye tracker. एक फोटो होगा देख लीजिए गूगल में. Now all these eye trackers are video based. They are based on image processing algorithm. But the dual Purkinje eye tracker कुछ जगहों में है, complicated है. It is not based on image processing. I will not get into that. You can find out various types of eye trackers. Whatever eye trackers you are seeing, people are discussing, they are video based. हमारे पास भी जो है, ये भी जो है. It takes an image and it runs an algorithm and it wants to tell you where somebody was so-called looking at that point. And when blinks, blinks. And again he is looking, jumping. I met Keith Rayner way back 10, 15 years ago in Marseille. And Keith Rayner liked what I was trying to present at that time. And he said that you can do a lot in India. Don't try to not do like us. Because he was very interested in varieties of scripts. And there was no paper in that conference, anything other than English, as is naturally now. Then he said, can you study the varieties of scripts and how people read, like Hindi or Sanskrit or so on. And there were some Chinese who later on did a lot, actually. Chinese students have done a lot of studies on Chinese reading using eye tracking than Indians have ever done. I can say that. अगर आपको 2 पेपर मिलेंगे, उनके 220 पेपर मिलेंगे. Last 20 years. I am talking about 2008, Marseille, France. Keith Rayner also invited me to send an invited paper for the Journal of Eye Movement Research. I didn't know. He said, can you write a paper for us? And I had a good discussion about an hour or so. He said, write it in such a way that you are speaking your own thoughts about, not from a tool's point of view. That though we know. So that paper was later accepted. And it is one of my most cited paper actually. Journal of Eye Movement Research. This is one important journal. इसको regular पढ़िए. You will find a lot more information. It's specific to eye tracking. Online है, free है. Then Keith Rayner and I remained in touch, and he kept sending me papers for review. Then Keith Rayner asked us again. No, he did not ask. We submitted a paper, Visual Search Eye Tracking, Illiterate-Literate Comparison. बहुत साल बाद, Paul Kittig और मैं और Chris Olivers from Netherlands. ये भी एक बहुत चर्चित और अच्छा पेपर है. आपको अगर you want to know how eye tracking is used in an individual difference point of view, उसको पढ़ लीजिए. And visual search, उसमें novel paradigms हमने use किया था. Keith Rayner was the reviewer. मुझे ये personal history कहना पड़ेगा. अगर आपको जानना है कि इस देश में eye tracking कैसे हुआ है. At that time nobody was using it in this way. DST was giving some money, people are purchasing, but nobody had begun using it in this manner. Keith Rayner was the reviewer, and Keith Rayner asked us to do one more experiment. He was not satisfied. He told, no, you look like you are a Westerner who is in India, and you are writing like that. I want you to do experiments that are specific to that population. This conversation exists. ये टाइम अब नहीं रहा कि जब एडिटर्स आपको हेल्प कर रहे हैं, आइडिया दे रहे हैं, एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करिए, फिर रिव्यू कर रहे हैं। ऑब्जेक्टिविटी है, एथिकली है। अभी नहीं, अभी तो 2 मिनट में रिजेक्टेड। मैं झूठ नहीं बोल रहा, झूठ क्या बोला ईमेल में। सो आई विल अप्रिशिएट माई इंटरेक्शंस विद कीथ रेनर, दैट कीथ रेनर हेल्प्ड मी इन थिंकिंग मोर डिसाइसिवली along with my foreign collaborators जो आज भी मैं काम करता हूँ। आई एम एडिटिंग विद फॉल गेटिंग, वही फॉल है इंटरनेशनल जर्नल ऑफ कल्चरल कॉग्निटिव साइंस। बट द आइडिया दैट ए कल्चर स्पेसिफिक वे ऑफ सीइंग and measuring it is possible, he put that in my head, that you study illiterate people because you have them. Now they are not comparable to illiterates in Portugal. You study other people or students or anybody, but you must not forget that their cognition is very specific to who they are. So can you capture those aspects and create experiments that are capturing it? I think it fundamentally changed my comparative strategies. I still pursue it. I am not a revisionist. I am not trying to do nationalism here, India. I am saying you, even if you are an empirical scientist, you must ground it conceptually from a perspective of history. Otherwise, it will look like a good mimic. Why these are necessary things to say to people that are beginning research? Otherwise, what is there? You could do the same thing here, you can do the same thing there. And so a cultural way of looking was given to me by Keith Renner, and many other names are there, but Keith Renner came. So I just wanted to give you this. These papers you can go and check. And Benjamin Tatler wrote a very fantastic historical book on eye tracking. अभी भी वो लिखते हैं. We have historians of science. He is the historian of eye tracking. So you read his book also. And he gives you a good amount of evolutionary progress in technology. How things were in the 70s, how paradigms changed, all kinds of things. Benjamin Tatler. You might find some review articles also there. Here are my own things. I think in this way. Here is my own look or take on this mind-brain, man-environment issue. What are the core processes? You will find these things in cognitive psychology, obviously, but they are not written like chapters. You can survey. I think that, so I am a functionalist. थोड़ा आधा घंटा के लिए मैं functionalist होना चाहता हूँ, ताकि आप बाहर जाके ना बोले कि हमको बुला के खाली ये फिलोसॉफी कुछ बोल के चले गए। थोड़ा सा आपको वो भी मैं दूंगा लेजर। लेकिन बात करते हैं anticipation is a core mechanism. That paper that was published, that I was talking about, was on anticipation. Now what is anticipation? Here you are moving away from this act of relating what's out there and saccades to it. Now anticipation is a core fundamental evolutionary mechanism that deals with prediction, probabilistic prediction, how the world will be in the next moment. Unless until you are very good in predicting, probably you will hamper your chances of survival. And people with superior fluid intelligence are excellent anticipators. Again, you see, they are never ever static or stable on any point. They merely are taking hints and they're predicting what will happen next. Like a ball is rolling, a horse is racing and all that. So anticipation is well studied within the world of psycholinguistics, cognitive science of language. And many of my papers, my collaborators' papers will say anticipation, prediction, you will find. So what eyes are for then? Eyes are for predicting an event that might just happen given certain initial inputs. So eyes already go, or your mind already goes with the eyes, if you believe in the eye-mind hypothesis. So anticipation is a very core mechanism. Prediction is different slightly from anticipation. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between prediction and anticipation? Most people use it as if they are similar. They are not. Even from the point of view of the brain. We have excellent neuroscience research to back up these differences. Particularly check the work of Aditya Murthy from Institute of Science, who studies anticipation and control in macaques. Supriya Roy जो उनके स्टूडेंट है कल बोल रहे थे वो, जेफरी शल जो उनके that tradition studies anticipation but in very rigidly controlled tasks. Prediction is different than anticipation. Can anybody tell me? Give an example. This is anticipation, that's prediction. is very simple. If you use common sense, you will answer
Prediction
me.
has more confirmation in it than anticipation. Like I'm more sure of a thing in
Yeah.
prediction.
It is not easy. Scholars in neuroscience, particularly Rizzolatti, suggested that there are neurons that anticipate and there are neurons that predict, or kind of they fire when a predictive scenario is on the cards, given some initial input. But anticipation it's a perpetual process of the brain, ongoing hum. It is probably not requiring much of input. But prediction is always an outcome of learning. So there is a learning issue here. So if you are basing a model of the brain on learning, like most behaviorists, you would move towards a prediction, okay? Because I know this, and I've seen it all the time, moving towards the left, my eyes will go, as soon as you flash it in the center. But anticipation is a very different mechanism where you are merely potentially anticipating anything and everything. Like in some parallel universe, Trump is a very virtuous man. And he might even win. And liberals will also prepare how to make a dumb fest for a few days, fight against him and accept the loss. And wait for 4 more years. Yeah? So anticipation and predictions are well studied in cognitive science, cognitive psychology as critical mechanisms. Control. I've done a lot of research on control. I'm just not getting into them, but if you can ask me, you ask me later over emails, or you can see some of my videos that I have already recorded and put there. Control means controlling a potentially hazardous behavior. Now you bring in the mind. So this is the functionalist definition of the mind. Mind exists to allow you to function behaviorally in a sound way. So control means controlling the nature of seeing. So we study control, like some of my papers are on Stroop task, and eye tracking has been used. So control of attention is studied in cognitive psychology, and eye tracking is used on these tasks because it's very, very central for successful behavior. All of them are important, but control is probably, now everybody is studying control because it is of paramount importance, because you cannot have all the humans enjoying their free will the way they want. The world will not be the place you see. Like if people are allowed to go up on the India Gate or Gateway of India and do whatever they feel like, अभी तो खाली फोटो ले ले रहे हैं. एक दिन के लिए अगर सरकार कहे तो जो करना है कर जाओ. अब देखिए क्या होता है. शायद मैं भी कभी, I must have thought like this. All right, attention finally. Now you may ask me, why is he keeping attention as a? The other 3 things they involve attention. Of course, I agree. But attention is the quote mechanism that superimposes itself on others, but in its own right, it has got very clear-cut brain network, the frontoparietal network. But frontoparietal network is not the only network now, is linked to attention. You have insula, you have ACC, you have primary motor cortex. The entire brain is attentive or not. Because if you know latest neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience, you will speak like me. If you are a traditionalist who has read something in the 60s, you will speak like, okay, that is just frontal area. No. Entire brain is either attentive or brain is not attentive. Because attention operates in lapses. Because your consciousness is holistic. That's why you have to bring in consciousness arising from the act of seeing before you start telling people, oh, you saw there, so that must be in your head. He may just flatly deny. You put a picture of Marilyn Monroe and you thought that you're looking at Marilyn Monroe's skit, and you said, no, I was not looking at anything. I was thinking of the horrible 60s that America had. It's like a Woody Allen film, where what he actually shoots in a camera is not what he wants the viewer to feel. He said, do you come back from my film? Memorizing in which part of Paris this was shot? Good hell, yeah. I wanted you to feel so many complex emotions. Yeah? Filmmakers, advertisers, all these people, they're playing games with you because they are aware of this interplay of not seeing and emotions, subjective states. Far more complicated things than we know so far. I will not get into it, but if you read the slides and whatever I'm explaining, you will find a correlation. But I want you to read on your own all the original papers. All right? ये कुत्ते इस टाइप का ब्रीड है ना, ये एक्चुअली बहुत चालाक होता है, ये जो गोल्डन रिट्रीवर। या स्कॉटलैंड में देयर इज एनुअल फेस्टिवल वेयर 500 गोल्डन रिट्रीवर्स गैदर, एक महीना पहले बोला, 500 golden retrievers being carried from all over the world in a tiny village, and 500 pet parents. क्या कभी देखना है? And the drama is everybody is intelligent, the man, woman, the dogs. Yeah? देखना तो ऐसा ही कुछ चीज चलेगा, वो what people are capable of, ये सब एडिट करके बात करना है। Anticipation is an emergent form of representation. This slides will not be easy for me to explain to you in moments, but I am giving you the heavy dose so that it stays in your system and you start exploring. That you will feel tempted to know. Then I will be very happy to interact further. I may not go to all the institutions. Many times we call you over here. Interactions will not stop. So anticipation is not studied the way Parag was talking about, or Priya Konafele was talking about. She was talking about that track of research I will come to, but not how people in this country know eye tracking. Yeah, they never study or little study higher order cognitive processes. So they study all lower level sensory processes, and there is a problem then. So I gave you 4 higher level processes to examine via the same technique. But you will see when you are asking this terrible question, your paradigm will change. You have to create a paradigm. You cannot have the old paradigm and gel it because it won't survive. Yeah? I will give you some ideas. For example, anticipation when nothing exists. Ask someone just to sit in front of a monitor and he would anticipate some stimuli you will give as his traditional experiment. After 5 minutes, he realizes there is nothing here. But he will not stop exploring and seeing. The brain, the frontal lobe will control the amygdala, that why I am in this senseless situation, like waiting for Godot, when nothing is coming. But the same frontal lobe also will tell the brain, something may happen, you can't just run away. Like bird watchers, yeah? They are not going there, there's a bird sitting there. That's not bird watching. Bird watching is when you know for sure that terrible suffering and waiting is on the cards. It's not like seeing it's like people who really are after tigers. They spend days before they successfully find one. So anticipation is the desire of the brain to futuristically expect things, even things that has not been part of the learning. Because most cognitive science is not about what you have learned, but what you can do if a challenging situation emerges, all right? Because any novel situation will ask novel responses. So anticipation is very key, prediction is very key, and attention subserves. So attention is not something in itself. When the brain is attentive, then anticipation and prediction, they work even very well. So in some of my papers, I have created this link that if you train people on, I don't know, somebody is doing, if you train people on attention, you will see that they are better anticipators and better predictors. It's a very powerful theory in cognitive science. And when you are a powerful anticipator and a predictor, probably you will do well, because novel ideas will come to you. Yeah? So you have आप उसको देख लीजिएगा. Helmholtz, उनका नाम लेना पड़ेगा. Helmholtz was the first German scientist who studied sensory processing deeply, audition and vision, because that was the renaissance of modern science. New apparatuses were created and people really got into it. So I think we should be indebted to German and French scientists more than the Anglo-Saxon for giving us that empirical attitude that we are carrying forward. America is nothing but the country of grandchildren of those people. America का नाम नहीं लेना ही ठीक है. But the French and the German, मैं अनगिनत नाम अभी गिना सकता हूँ बैठ के यहीं पे, जो फाउंडेशनल डिस्कवरी के, All right? And also the Dutch masters, particularly the use of, the imaginative act of seeing and depicting, Rembrandt. बहुत सारी research अभी हो रहा है. How could he paint like that? Not just realism. Mesmerizing, Vermeer. अभी मैं देख रहा था फ्रांस में, there was a show on Vermeer. So थोड़ा सा आप आर्ट हिस्ट्री पे जाइए अगर विजन पे काम करना हो. अदरवाइज जी आप इसको बहुत हल्के में आके गए, इसको नहीं कहते हैं. नहीं. You have to know what people have achieved with imagination, imagery, symbolism, than what they actually did see. Because no painter, it's not a photograph, no painter ever painted really what he saw. Yeah? अब इस पर एक स्टोरी कहना ठीक है. When I was 12, no, I was 11, I discovered that I am blind. Now I'm blind. I see only have 25% in my right eye. I discovered it when I was in NCC. And you have to hold that girl like that. And the master is saying, you close this. And I'm telling I can't see anything. He is telling what? You cannot see anything. What I'm saying? So I cannot see anything. Then I took the gun to the other side. He's saying, no, that's not allowed. Then I realized, and I told my father that it is like this. My father took me to an ophthalmologist. Ophthalmologist finds out it's a congenital condition. Nothing can happen. And if you operate, you will lose more. So it has remained like that, and I only see my primary eye is my left eye. My father said terrible news. A person, kaisa ho gaya, yeah. Then there was a book of Freud. There were all these books. I started looking. Then you started going, you see, he's a great psychologist, and there were paintings of Klimt in Freud's book. So I was looking, I see these people know so much. He's trying to tell me that you don't bother so much, yeah? Ultimately, you have to do symbolism. So you don't have to really be so unhappy. But keep it that way. It stuck with me, that's what he's saying. Or at least what I was making up. मेरी कहानी अगर खत्म नहीं होगी, एक मैं ऑनलाइन एक्सटेंशन दे दूंगा बाद में. आई नेवर वांट टू डू स्क्रैचिंग. सारे लोग जुड़ जाइएगा. आई विल 1 hour, 1.5 hours, I will give an online talk. इसी को आगे बढ़ाऊंगा. Right? But for 10 minutes, let me. So the act of seeing is the act of representing, and no eye tracking is able to capture that part. So fundamentally we don't see, we represent. Hints. Biderman was a cognitive psychologist in Belgium, and he proposed a theory, the Gion model of, the geometrical patterns. It was a very powerful idea, not Trisman type. So when you want to define technically what is a visual object, you either tilt towards Trisman, features, make object, or you tilt towards Biderman. Nobody talks these days about Biderman, but I think he should be resurrected. Because he didn't go to these elements, this is the atomic theory of attention, but he went to full objects. And the same thing we saw in later emergence of embodism in cognitive science, particularly Gibson's work. And also Merleau-Ponty's powerful book, Perception. उसको भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. French, German French philosopher, Maurice Merleau-Ponty. So all this come together after 20-30 years, Gestalt psychology. What I am trying to ask this question, prediction, anticipation in seeing, do they work on features, or they are on whole objects, or they are on invisible things? We still don't know. The question is, do I anticipate, predict a thing, or feature of an object, or collection of objects, or merely another representation of some object? That is called looking through the mind's eye. When writers and fiction writers, they write, when you read any great writer, he never saw those things. He makes it up. And they're so vivid and real. And you are consuming all of that. Alright? So, far more complicated theories will get connected. But I think that is where the real pleasure of doing something scholarly lies in this way. So, alright. The processes are mechanistic again. You can go and check. There are brain networks observing all this. Fine with that. But core mechanisms such as anticipation and prediction fuel cognition. And now, more recently, in a collected volume in the journal Cognitive Science, the American Association's flagship journal, people agreed that cognition is affective, means experiential. It perfectly fits with what I have been saying so far. It's never finding out or tracking down what's out there, because we are not here for that. Our marvelous evolutionary power of the mind is not for that. It's for experiencing all of this. Secondly, it's predictive and anticipatory. And me and my student Sima, who is a Humboldt scholar in Germany now, we just have submitted a paper to a facilitative volume for Ray Jackendorf. So we have written that chapter on prediction. So that will come out maybe in due course of time. But that entire volume is honoring the idea of prediction in cognitive science, in the honor of Ray Jackendorf, an important name in cognitive science and linguistics, and many of you will know. So prediction and anticipation are central mechanisms, and eye tracking can capture only aspects of them. Many of my experiments have exploited that. So control is mechanistic because control is behavioral. If you allow full freedom to human beings, what they would like to do is they would like to be themselves. And when a human being is attempting to be himself or herself, he would not like any control. But societies will malfunction if every human being is trying to be himself or herself or themselves. So control is now an important area of research because it allows you to fix the human being, at least for a moment, on a certain task. That A must be done and B must not be done. All these tasks are of this sort. I have studied quite a bit of it and many people have studied. So what we have found out, that control is necessary when it is imposed on us. Otherwise, given our nature, we are not so virtuous primates that we will live such dignified controlled life. You can see 50% of people still enjoy their freedom so much that they don't exercise much control. But in cognitive psychology, we want to study control for the sake of treating people apparently who may have hyperactivity, who may have inhibitory control issues, who may have psychiatric conditions. Can you study control or aspects of it using eye tracking? Certainly so. Please check some of my own papers, like this one here. When we asked people to do, I will not explain, maybe you can tell later in the. So control is, now this is antithesis. On the one hand, you are talking about prediction and anticipation. On the other hand, you are talking about control. I will connect both. I'll say, you can, in a particular context or in an environment, because every experiment is a context. You are creating the context. The participant is operating within that context. Attention and control allow better prediction and anticipation. That causal link we have been searching now. So if you train someone on attention, like brain training softwares or etc., whatever, or meditation even, you will enrich the anticipatory predictive network. So things that are not there will reveal themselves to you. And क्रिएटिविटी, कल कोई बात कर रहा था इस पे आधारित, क्रिएटिविटी कभी जो है उस पे नहीं है. क्रिएटिविटी इज हमेशा जो नहीं है ना, वो हो भी सकती है. इफ यू आर लुकिंग एट द पेंटिंग्स ऑफ सल्वाडोर डाली, डू यू थिंक दैट यू सॉ दोस थिंग्स? नो. Picasso, yeah, somewhat semi-realistic, because Picasso painted all his women, many women. Now there is big revisionism whether we should have Picasso. मैं तो कहूँगा सब, तुमको खराब लग रहा है ना, ऑल दिस डर्टी मैन, सारा पेंटिंग हमको दे दो, हम रख लेंगे यहाँ दिल्ली में, ताकि हमको ना जाना पड़े. दे दो. मैं किसी को बोला दे दो ना तुम लोग, और मोरलिस्टिक हो गए, सब दे दो, फेंक फाक दो, फिर हमारे ग्रंथों को लेकर रख दो. ये पूरा वर्चुअस मोरल जैसे आप चाहते हैं वही है. या गिधड़ की मौज जो आती है शहर तरफ भागता है. न्यूयॉर्क का जो यॉकिज्म का जो मेन मुखिया की मौत आती है वो ईस्ट इंडिया तरफ आएगा. मोक्ष यहीं पे। तो बातें ऐसी है कि खत्म नहीं होगी, खत्म कर देते हैं, खाना वाले टाइम हो गया। Raymond Klein, a great influence on me, a personal master to me. Many papers I have published with him. आज भी हम मिलकर काम करते हैं. Raymond Klein was a student of Michael Posner, and I learned certain key notions of attention. First, because I was a linguist, I came from linguistics, and you know in 90s क्या इंडिया में psycholinguistics क्या था? Psychology था, psycholinguistics तो नहीं था. वह मेरा टीचर ना इसको सुन ले, प्रोफेसर शर्मा फोन करके बोलेंगे क्या बोलने लगे हो? मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, इट वॉज नॉट टेक्निकली सो सोफिस्टिकेटेड. You have to really learn yourself. Raymond Klein exposed me to the intricacies of attention research. And then after coming back from a long stay in Canada, I realized that attention can be studied empirically using eye tracking. And not many in this country were doing so. They were using response buttons, as we करते हैं. So I created paradigms and I measured attention or aspects of attention using eye tracking way back 16 years ago. Oculomotor readiness hypothesis is Raymond Klein's novel idea that there is a paper by him called foraging, because he proposes that the question is the same that I was asking, why do we see? According to Klein, evolutionarily we see to forage, to find out things that might be important to us or to save ourselves from danger. Any biologist will tell you that. Alright? So foraging and exploring is the oculomotor behavior. And oculomotor readiness hypothesis is the brain's readiness to jump at a thing that might be there, that might not be there. So a predictive mechanism is also at work. Alright? So if I train you a couple of trials, that if you see this dot coming in various locations, and automatically then I take those dots off from the screen, and with an auditory cue, I can show you that your oculomotor system is following that path. Because a habitual network has been formed, and you cannot easily break it actually. And this we exploit. I hope that you are understanding what I am trying to say without showing you the stimuli. You can create these experiments in your head. So oculomotor readiness hypothesis was a powerful hypothesis, just like the mirror neuron hypothesis and other major ideas in our field. The ventral dorsal processing tracts, usko bhi dekh lijiye. But this is about two types of neurons in the brain. In the prefrontal eye field, you must know this area. Please look at some neuroscience papers on different types of neurons that move the eyes. Superior colliculus, parietal lobe neurons, and prefrontal eye field neurons. Why I am talking about it? Because the decision to move the eyes, the readiness part of it is because of the go neurons, and the control part of it is because of the stop neurons. And these were discovered by John Cass, the teacher of Jeffrey Schall in the primate brain. He remains an authority. So in the primate brain, in the macaque brain, when you do recording, single cell recording, you will find these two types of neurons that are controlling the ocular activity. Alright? It's far more complicated because I can't have the time to get to that, how attention and selection is linked to all of this. But let's imagine a simple situation. A primate is there and there are 2 or 3 things, and the primate has to move the eyes. So those decisions are taken by these neurons. So prefrontal eye field apparently is the most important area. Final slide कर देते हैं, premotor theory. Now I am talking about traditional, descriptive, functional cognitive psychology of second part of 20th century. Any textbook will give you chapters on this. Alright? So attention, particularly premotor theory. Now you may ask me, what is motor or premotor? There are 2 types of people in our business. People that believe in higher order sensory processes, people that believe in motoric processes. So people that believe that the brain is for action, people that believe that brain is for experience. So you have motor neurons, you have sensory neurons. Alright? With regard to seeing, like something, visually exploring, both things are present. It is a sensory process because experience is an outcome of it. It is also a motoric process because you can track down in the brain firing of various clusters of neurons that are basically motoric. Alright? So often, this is talked in the context of attention. So when people ask this simple question, what is attention? मुझे तो कितना बार मुझे पूछा गया कि what is attention? तो depending on people, मैं थोड़ा सा मजा लेता हूँ. क्या? Sometimes I say attention is nothing but an attentive agent. There is no such thing. When an agent is attentive, that is attention. Yeah? Like living in India, you are democratic. आप कोई border cross कर जाओ, instantly उसी वक्त you will not be party to a vibrant democracy. Yeah? 50 meter में ही सब आपका identity. So attention is attentiveness. You see now how I'm playing it works. So you'll say, sir, I am staring at you for 2 hours. Was I attentive? I'll say no, not necessarily. If you really were attentive, give me the experiences. Now you'll say, what experiences? Do you want me to describe how many times you are moving your hands? Are you eye tracking? No. Experiences. What was going on within you as an agent? So attention is a very complicated topic, but with regard to the stop and go neuron, here is the main aspect. There are views that say an attentive brain, or when attention sets in, oculomotor program are the eventual implications. So eye movements can tell you about attention. But this view is now mostly rejected. That if you track eye movements, you cannot probably know much about the attentiveness of the agent. Alright? You can probably talk about more functional applied aspects of it. Only if it results into a measurable behavior. Like a person is not able to really press on the red dot and you see only eye movements around it, then you can say he was not attentive enough because I see a poor performance on the task. But if you see that the person did not need to have eye movements and he was very good with performance, then you have another theory. So premotor theory means a separation of sensory from the motoric. How all this is related? So far in this conference you saw people talking about the behavioral motoric aspects of measuring eye movements. But the higher cognitive subjective aspects of experience are also happening simultaneously. We are only able to capture the motoric aspects and we call that evidences for behavior. But the simultaneously ongoing experiential states are never captured in saccades and fixations. You can challenge me on this. Because there are people from various disciplines here. They may not just be interested in measuring behavior. They may be after something more different. So for them, I would like to say that explore vision, acts of seeing, symbolic representations, even the use of attention from this point of view. Alright? So I think time ho gaya? ठीक है. I am stopping here. But all these slides will be given to you. And if anyone is interested, I will do a online lecture extending my story from here to the other aspects, maybe after a week or so. एक ईमेल भेज दीजिएगा, जो आएंगे, ठीक है? फिर आपको एक मौका मिलेगा, मुझे आप सवाल कुछ पूछ सकते हैं, क्योंकि मेरी कहानी में अधूरा छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ. दूसरों को भी बोलना है, आपको खाना खाना है. So yeah, that's it for now. And do read widely, selectively, and broaden your outlook about acts of seeing. एक इम्पोर्टेंट आदमी का नाम लेना जरूरी है, ग्रेगोरी हिकॉक. उनका एक बहुत फेमस किताब है, Seeing, American psychologist. That book also